Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 2. So, as I've been scouring the internets for what I call spirited beings, trying to identify what I would call the exceptionals, the people that I'm trying to add to my genius cluster, even my wisdom council, we have somebody very, very special here with us today. So I want to officially welcome Rev Lee Wolak as my second guest on the show. And I just so graciously thank you for accepting the invitation. I really, really do. And as these episodes of mine develop, these are divisions of what we call the Discovery Academy. It's a Pneuma of Now podcast, along with a kind of a segment called the FutureNows think tank operation. And basically what I'm trying to do here is bring interesting guests that basically tickle the brain and get us to really think and ask great questions, just exactly like you've been teaching me over the last 18 months. So Lee's content is prodigious. I invite everybody to check out his YouTube channel. Links will be in the description. We'll have all that handled for you guys. And his information and his content fits perfectly in with what my channel is intending to bring forth. And as I'm still casting a vision for how these sessions are going to progress, I just really could not think of a better person to be my guest today. So thank you so much. I am just saturated with gratitude to be having this conversation. It's going to go by quick, an hour. I know I spend many, many hours with you. I know how fast the clock is going to go here. So, but with his daily breathwork sessions at 7 a.m. Central and his thoughts that can change your life morning messages every single day on YouTube and Facebook Live, he's got a book on Amazon that you can get right now. It's called The Power in You. Links will be in the description on that as well. And as a longtime owner of a yellow-naped Amazonian parrot named Toby, and Lee has just been recognized as having one of the top 100 spiritual podcasts on the net. So it doesn't take much to realize that Lee is on a mission. He's also working on his audiobook, and he's on my list of people to be watching in 2022 and beyond. As a Dr. John DeMartini values facilitator, Lee has a comprehensive understanding of what it takes to affect real and lasting change in our lives. For those on a path to increased awareness, and for those seeking grounded teachings rooted in ancient traditions passed down to us, Lee synthesizes and precipitates wisdom with a profoundly simple perspective. And what percolates from that is a teaching on how to greater self-love through conscious living. Teaching a practical spirituality based on the teachings of Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, Lee helps us see the world with renewed insight. I've read Lee's book, The Power in You, on Amazon now, and I truly, truly did savor that reading experience. I'm looking forward to the second run through as soon as I have a little bit more free time getting through our current book reading homework assignments. So basically, from the bottom of my green heart, I welcome Reverend Lee Wolak to the episode. And if you'd just be so kind as to kind of introduce us to the Agape Spiritual Center, how that came about. And then I really do want to invite you to cast a vision for the future and what you have in mind and what you're seeing there.
Thank you so much. And I'm so honored to be with you today. I can remember being 7 years old, and I was raised as a Catholic. And there was something mystical, I remember, on a Christmas Eve midnight mass, going up at 7 years old to the choir loft and singing that night. And I never forgot that feeling. I went to the seminary at the age of 16. Wasn't right for me. I left. And then I left the church completely. And I went through my corporate thing where I became a vice president of a large company, had the house, the family, everything. And then I started my spiritual journey. And I got a master's degree in consciousness studies, and I became a religious science minister. And I was an assistant minister at a center, enjoying myself. And then it came to me. It's time to start your own center. And I started the center on the basis that I would teach the science of mind And it would be about how to better self-love through conscious living. Because what I've come to understand is that people don't have a clue what love is. And that's why there's so much misery in the world. They don't have an understanding of what consciousness is, what conscious living is. And these beautiful souls are looking for ideas. They're looking for, give me an idea, because I'm going to tell you, I can't fix anyone. I've said that 1,000 times, but I can ask some really good questions, point you in some really great direction, and tell you what seems to be working for me. See, and I know that what works for me may work for you. It may not, because we're all different. So when I started Agape, I started to have a local community here in North Texas, out north of Dallas. And was building that community. And I had a YouTube presence while doing that. But then when the pandemic hit and we got shut down, I went totally virtual. And so I built up my YouTube, I built up my Facebook, I built up my Instagram. I went virtual. I do guided meditations every morning at 7 a.m. I do my podcast at 8 a.m. every day. I've got gatherings on Wednesday twice a day. I teach classes in the evenings. And now we're doing all of that, and we're back to doing in person. So I look at Agape as both a global and a local community, because I think that's what about. And here's the thing, that when you start saying cast the vision, boy, I'm just getting a tiny glimpse of it. But what's really coming to me is that this idea of spirituality and gatherings, the Sunday gathering, it's dead. Because here's what I've learned. You can get information anywhere. Just go to my YouTube channel. I got over 1,000 videos for you to watch, free. What I'm coming to understand is that people want an experience. They want to feel something greater than they are. They want to feel connected to other people. What does that look like? I'm not sure. But I'm going to be testing things in my in-person services and then see how I can bring them to my global gatherings. My global gatherings that we have, there's almost all interaction. It's all back and forth. It's not just me talking. That's when my podcast, but in my gatherings, it's got to be the back and forth, and we connect that way. But I know there's more. I'm open to that. I'm putting that intention out into the universe, and I sit and listen every day. I know that people are starving for ways to connect. This pandemic has isolated people. There's more alcohol being drunk. There's more drugs being taken. There's more suicides going on right now. People they're isolated, alone. And I want to be a spark that brings them out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I just kind of want to mention real quick, I have been participating within your community for just about 18 months now. And, I did take a look at, I've had a kind of an introduction to the science of mind stuff going back actually to about 2000. I've had kind of what I would call these kind of mini awakenings, various kind of versions of like an expanded state of awareness over the years. I did start meditating probably right around 2000, maybe 2001. I remember it taking me about 3 months before I was addicted to meditating. And then I kind of probably went overboard with it. But at the time, it was perfect timing for me to gain a little bit more extra control over my emotions and kind of move into a more embodied practice where, as I encountered obstacles in my daily struggles, just a way of really transmuting that frustration and anxiety, trying to figure out a way to thrive in a world where not a lot of stuff is really making sense. I always tell people the longer I live, the less I know. And I think it was maybe Plato or Aristotle that's like, the wisest man in the room is the man who knows that he knows very close to nothing. And the fool is the man who walks into a room and claims to know anything at all. And so I've kind of embodied some of these just loftier perspectives over the years. It took me a really, really long time to actually discover the breath. And so that's just another piece that's a part of my puzzle in personal transformation since I've stopped drinking. So I am in recovery, almost 3 years. And really, the pandemic for me really just caused me to, one, I was gaining clarity through my sobriety. Just about every 3 or 4 months, again, I was having kind of a blossoming of consciousness. And you've seen me move through that over the last 18 months, and how, even now, like I'm connecting with more energy, more core vitality, and I'm working more than I've ever worked in my life. And yes, there was an adjustment period. Yes, my body's kind of hurting and aching, but it's a good hurt. I don't go to the gym like you do, and I totally honor and respect your dedication. And that's really another thing I just kind of wanted to mention to the audience is this man, his dedication when he puts his mind on something it's prodigious, it's profound, it's inspiring. And so really the fact that just wanting to have a conversation with Reverend is I've spent so much time with Reverend. He's like literally one of my best friends, and we've never met. And so the ability to, this is also proof, demonstration that we absolutely can create these amazingly subtle and dynamic relationships via the internet. Yes. And so I definitely encourage you to continue to experiment. But what you're doing right now, it has really, really benefited my life in so many ways. And I'm just now getting more deeply into the science of mind stuff, like this book right here that we're studying currently. We might pull some quotes out of here as the episode continues. But I just can't thank you enough for just your support and your classes, your workshops. I took the Science of Getting Rich class, which was really like a lot of these new thought authors like, oh, I thought I had it. What's this guy's name? Norman Vincent Peale. I just got this. I've never read him before, but it's people like that that have helped transform me. One of my favorite books, it's not probably for everybody, it's Emma Curtis Hopkins' High Mysticism. And from what I understand, this is even something that is like maybe a forerunner to the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so it's interesting that I was reading this material before I got sober, but it led me into my first sobriety checkpoint. So I don't know, with that, I'll kind of hand the microphone over back to you if you have any thoughts on a lot of that I just threw your way.
Let's get some clarity for our audience that science of mind is nothing new. Ernest Holmes, who wrote The Science of Mind, said, this is the accumulation. This is the accumulation of the best that he found in science, philosophy, and religion. He brought it all together, and the science of mind is a practical way of living. You can do the science of mind if you're evangelical, if you're Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, Islamic, Muslim. It doesn't matter. You could be an atheist. And what we teach in the science of mind will work. The basis of it is your thoughts create. And beneath that is it's your beliefs. Whatever you believe is what your life is demonstrating. So when you start to understand that, then you've got to come to the idea of what is a belief? A belief are your thoughts, words, actions, and feelings aligned toward a specific result, held persistently and consistently, consciously and unconsciously. I know I've studied that definition. I built that definition of belief because I wanted it, because some people say it's just what you think over and over again. No. You've got to have the actions, the words, the feelings behind it, and it's got to be held persistently, consistently. This is the key thing. When people talk to me about, I want to become more aware, I want to change my life spiritually, I said, well, you got to dedicate yourself. The single most important thing about any spiritual practice is being persistent and consistent with it. It's like you talked about the gym. I've been going to the gym for 50 years. I'm in the gym 3 to most likely 4 to 5 times a week. I don't miss. Why? Because I want to take care of this body that is the vessel that I get to experience life with. I don't want a car with 2 flat tires and try to drive around. I want a car with brand new tires. Maybe they're older, but they still got a lot of tread on them. And the same thing is with meditation. Meditation, I think, is the single one spiritual practice that everyone should implement into their life, even if they're starting out with 3 minutes in the morning. I would invite them. The Science of Mind is really about how to use your mind, your thoughts, to create your life. And boy, test it. What I teach is don't believe a single word I say. Test it for yourself. And then if you got it, you own it. And so for me, Science of Mind, when I got into Science of Mind, I was hooked. I knew this was it. In fact, I never planned on being a minister. I was just studying Science of Mind. And then all of a sudden it came to a crossroad where I had to go on to school to be a minister or continue with my career. And the universe said, no, you're going to go on to school. You're going to become a minister. And it's the single best thing I've ever done because I get to teach. And I love teaching. We look back at our lives and we don't know who the teacher was that will have the greatest impact on you. Mine was Bill Valentine, Dearborn High School, 1969. He taught me speech. And then he taught me to get into forensic speaking. And I learned to compete in oratory, extemporaneous speaking, and interpretive reading. Because of that, I have a gift to speak. I love to speak. So everything I do, I'm in gratitude for Bill, because Bill saw this gift and he brought it out in me. And it didn't really start to demonstrate until all of a sudden I went on this path and became a minister. I was good in the corporate world speaking, but nothing like what I'm doing now. Speaking now is so easy because you allow the flow of the divine to come through you and the infinite wisdom comes through you. It guides you to what's right, what's next. And if you're paying attention to the person you're with or your audience, it will tell you what to say next. Very seldom do I plan much of my talks. People say ministers spend hours putting together a Sunday talk, hours. 15, 20 minutes is all I do to put an outline together every week. And then I think about it. And when I get up there, I let spirit speak through me.
Yeah. And I've heard you say things like, and mirror things I've heard elsewhere, but like 10,000 hours worth of dedicated effort is really the difference between becoming an expert and a master at something. And I've really embodied that with my creative work, whether it's playing the drums. I did not have a natural aptitude for music, but I did discover the healing power and the transformative impact of rock and roll music. And that could be something we could talk about too, is just how energetic shifts can take place when we're listening to songs that just really juice us. And so it took me 8 years of really working persistently and consistently before I even called myself a drummer. And I didn't get started until I was 17. So I was 24 before I was like, I finally figured something out. And then behind the drum kit was actually when I had one of my, what I would call a mystical experience, where I really saw beyond the contrast, went into this unity mind, where my mind and my body were synced up. All of a sudden, I was able to play with as much ferocity and energy, but I was no longer sweating at the end of rehearsals. So that idea of 10,000 hours, I've also applied to my writing and now my own speaking. I have given one presentation back in 2016 when I actually was living on the edge And I might want to maybe ask you to talk about that, like living in that place that's really uncomfortable, but not so uncomfortable that it's debilitating, but where we're really challenging ourselves in ways that allow us to grow and build confidence and self-worth. I hear you say a lot of times, that this idea that we're infinitely worthy because we are connected to the infinite mind. But also, I kind of want to throw in here, I know I'm kind of speckling the canvas with a lot of ideas here, but you do have a chapter in your book about the power of the word. And that's another fascinating concept that I've really, really been embodying over the last probably 12 years. Things like ideas that if you want a better life, increase your vocabulary, really study the definitions of words and really inspect how you talk to yourself. The word, like you even mentioned that in here. So again, I realize I kind of speckle the canvas with a splattering array of different concepts, but it's fascinating to me how everything that we're talking about is just connected in a different dimension, a different perspective, a different outlook. And really, again, this channel that I'm just really starting is just really to try to inspire people that it's okay to think differently. It's okay to think your own thoughts. Let's just choose our thoughts in a way that's constructive to the vision, what I call visioneering for our life, So I have a lot of these really interesting concepts that I've developed over the years. And
so let's take a little bit of that and try to unpack it a bit, put some framework around it if we can. And one of the things is each one of us is born unique. No one is ever born like anyone else. No one on the planet has ever been like anyone else. We're born unique. But from the time we come out of our mother's womb, mom and dad are molding us because our brain is in the theta state from age 0 to 7. And in the theta state, that's a hypnotic state. So everything that comes in, we just blindly accept as that. So from 0 to 7, mom and dad, church, school, television, friends are molding us to be like everybody else. And then we wonder why we're not happy. And then we start questioning. And people think we're terrible when we're questioning. How dare you question? That's why I got kicked out of the seminary at 16. I questioned. I said, I'm not going to buy. That doesn't make any sense. And so when I question things, it's the words you use when you question. Let's go back to the words. What is my heart calling me to be? That's really a big question, because if you can answer the question, what is my inner heart calling me to be? And then what does it want to do with me being that person? Oh, now you're starting to really go. And then you take the word, because your words create an image. The image that your words create start to form the mold that the universal intelligence will bring into your life. So the more you use words to create this image, this mold, you give a clearer picture to the universe about what you want to come into your life. And then the universe says, is his word good? Does it, and the universe is sort of saying, and the universe doesn't say this, but this is how it works. Does he honor his word? When he gives his word to someone, is it good? But here's what's even more important. When you speak your word, are you good to it for yourself? That's really the critical thing. If you're true to your word, you're true to yourself. If you're true to yourself, other people will know that and say, this person has, his word is gold. That's something my father taught me. He was not an educated man. His parents were immigrants from Poland. He was not a bright individual at all, but he said, Lee, your word is everything. He taught it from a certain perspective. but it's so much more than that. It's everything, because your word reflects your thoughts. The words you speak will affect your emotions. The words you speak will affect your actions. They'll create your beliefs, and your beliefs will create your life. So your word is so important. And, you know, one of the things I've had to learn as a minister is, because you do ask tough questions, and I'm not here to coddle anyone. I'm going to tell you, I'm not that minister that's loving and nurturing and that. No, that's not my job. My job is to ask questions to help you expand your awareness. That's what I've created my job to be. And you know what? I press buttons on people, and people don't like that sometimes. And the thing that you've got to do is, if you're going to be a teacher, you can't care. You've got to say, am I doing what I'm doing for the best? Is my intention good? Then if their button gets pressed, it's their button. You know, if you go to Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements, he tells you, never, ever take anything personally. But we in society today, Richard, my God, we're taking everything so personal. We've got this woke agenda. We've got comedians that can't tell jokes. You can't talk this subject, that subject. You can't present another view. What's wrong with people today? We can't have a discussion. I can remember being in India with this guru. I call him the astrology guru. And my friend Aranjan and I spent 2 hours with this beautiful soul. And he would say, what do you believe about this? What do you know to be the truth about this? And I would say, this is what I believe. And he goes, where's your proof? Startled me. I said, well, this is my proof. He said, no, that's your opinion. Where's your proof? And he would go, and you find out that everything was an opinion. But we go on and we take those opinions, we lock him in and say, that's the truth. And when you really come down to it, is everything we speak is a lie. It's just an opinion. It's not the truth. The only truth that I know is that in this moment, I am aware that I am speaking these words. I am aware I'm on this podcast. I just know I'm aware. That's the only truth I know. I don't know if you're aware. I have no idea. You could be a created imagination that I've brought into the universe. I think you're real. I think you're just a unique expression. But what do I know? I can only know my own awareness. And so when I look at what's my number one value in life, to become more aware. Because I'm only aware this much of the day. And that's a lot compared to most people.
Right. Yeah.
Now, there's a judgment in there. I just say that.
Yeah. And I was even talking to you last night, just like, you know, on average, you know, I'm definitely trying to kind of rise above the status quo, this idea of mediocrity. I want to up level my own default mechanisms so that when, you know, I can identify, you know, those thoughts that are self-limiting, those thoughts that are really, really based in worry and contrast. And, you know, this whole idea of demonstration in the science of mind teachings is really, you know, even when I went into my meditation kind of towards the end of the year, I do an end of the year review, and I kind of go into a hibernation where I try to really get in tune with my inner self, and I'll meditate a little bit extra during the winter months. And like every year, I kind of get a word that's giving me kind of the tone of the year. And this last year, it was actually demonstration was the word for me. And, you know, without going into the nitty gritty details, like my life was looking pretty bleak 18 months ago. I was to the point where I was about a weekend away from having to put my house up on the market and pull what I call pull the parachute and basically like get out of Dodge and start figuring out where I'm going to be sleeping on couches for the next couple of weeks until I rearrange my life. But by whatever grace, another topic I would love to discuss with you, because I've heard you talk about grace as being another way of talking about the thing itself. You know, and these are some words of the science of mind that I'm targeting right now. And so another thing I'd like to investigate with you, because I'm super interested in connecting these ideas in a way that does make it really, really simple for people to tap into this infinite power or this all-powerful co-creative space. And I kind of see the world as a co-creative space. You know, we have an address. I can send you a letter and it's pretty sure to get there. I wake up in the same bed every night, so not so long as I'm not a nomadic creature. When I go to sleep, I'm dreaming my own dream kind of thing. It's kind of unique to me. But when I wake up, it feels like we're dreaming a collective dream. And it's a little more stable, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's any less illusion or, you know, all those really mystical concepts that start to kind of get really nebulous in my mind, a little bit confusing. But with the dedicated practice of science in mind, I do feel like there is a grounded set of wisdom. And I just, like you said earlier, you know, I just fell in love with it instantly. And it's only within the last 2 years and within my sobriety that I've taken my journey with Ernest Holmes as seriously, and why I've basically nominated you as my guide for the time being. I mean, you are my reverend. So it's pretty cool that we've still never met each other, but we have this really great open relationship. And I know that you've challenged me over the years, and I just appreciate that so much. Like, I'm ready for that. I'm not offended by you helping me to reframe my words. Like the affirmations, my favorite one that I still use to this day is, I live and experience infinite abundance, and I am financially free to do what I want, when I want, and how I want. And then I've got a whole other set of little affirmations that I'm working on memorizing, but it's really the first time in my life I've tried to do this affirmative prayer or the spiritual mind treatment. So we could talk about any of those things as well. I'll pause for now.
So let's go in so people get an idea. Richard was talking about this concept called the thing itself. That's what Ernest Holmes called God. Now, there's no words that can adequately or do justice to define that, because it's infinite. So just by putting any name around it, you're limiting it. But the best that I could probably tell you is that the infinite is everywhere present. It's always present. It's all wisdom. It's all power. It is the seen, the unseen, the known, the unknown, and the unknowable. And being that it's infinite, there's nothing other than it. So everything that exists is a creation of it, out of it, and still is a part of it. So you and I and everyone listening are a part of the infinite. So we are, as I would frame it, microcosms of the macrocosm. Now, being a microcosm of that, quantum physics would say, well, that's consciousness, right? So you and I are points of consciousness. And then quantum physics says is where you focus is the possibility or probability that you bring into your experience. Ernest Holmes would say, what is your belief? That's what's going to bring in. And so he talks about that when you build a belief, you're using the infinite power that created everything. It's not that you have an individual power, you don't. We're all using the same infinite power. Here's the thing about that power. It's not a judge. It's impersonal. It gives you exactly what you believe. It doesn't say, Lee, you need this. No. What do you believe, Lee? It gives you exactly that. So it's impersonal in that it doesn't care what you do, but it's personal in that it gives you what you believe. And you go, wow. So there is no such thing as you create a sin and you're punished, but rather you may make a choice that's not going in the direction you want and you get a consequence. So it's not like there's a Santa Claus in the sky punishing you. It's that there's an immutable law, a creative intelligence that gives you exactly what you believe. And when you start to get that, you go, whoa. Now that's Ernest Holmes. He's really talking about the same thing that Jesus talked about, the creative impulse of life. But toward the end of his life, he started getting into the Eastern religions. And that's where he called it the connection with the divine, getting into oneness, and doing that through meditation, through silence. And so I've really come to understand that it's a balance. It's a balance of meditating. And for me, meditating is pure silence. I reconnect with the infinite. I recharge. It's a spiritual reboot. And then because I am in body and I do have a mind, I'm here to experience as much life as I can possibly dream of. And that's my goal while I'm here. And to do it as aware as I can, but realize the opioid of the masses, the thing that the masses have gotten addicted to, that they've been taught addiction to, was that you can be happy all the time. And that's just not possible. Because you think about it, you can't experience life unless there's contrast. To be happy all the time, you have to eliminate contrast. You eliminate contrast, you can't be happy. It's impossible. It's like the divine doesn't know, the infinite doesn't know happiness or sadness. The infinite cannot judge because there's nothing for it to judge against because it's everything. This is the amazing thing, that when you sit down and you talk to dogmatic religious people and they say that God judges, you say, how can God judge if it's infinite? And they all go omniscient, omnipotent. And they get mind boggled, because if God is infinite, then it can't judge itself against anything because there's nothing for it to judge against. And then how can there be hell? Because there's only God. How can there be a devil if there's only God? You see, it's these stories that have been created that people buy into. But if you start to really process it, you realize, now we're coming to the essence of what I teach. The definition of love is 100% acceptance. It's not about liking. It's not about conditions. It means that if I look at Richard and I say, Richard, I love you, it means I accept you just like you are without changing anything. But so many people get into relationships and it's, if you love me, you'll change. No, that's a codependent need. That's the ego. That's not the spirit. That's not love. And then you get people saying, I'm looking for my soulmate to complete me. And I go, whoa, the soul, which is the point of consciousness of the divine, is already complete. It needs nothing. It's whole. But you see, we have anthropomorphized God. We've given God human qualities. That's not the way it works. We've forgotten we're made in the image and likeness of God. We've got God qualities. Let's start living from that perspective. That's where the power is. And then when you do that, you know you're worthy. And just because you know you're worthy doesn't mean anyone else is less worthy. We're all equally worthy. We're unique. That's something to embrace. Everyone's unique. So you're sitting there with your green hat. I'm sitting here with my blue shirt. We're unique. No one's right. No one's wrong. We're just unique, but people can't grasp that. And it's just a fascinating thing. Think about this. The infinite created everything out of itself. So everything that's created is infinite. Do you think the infinite created two of anything? Not at all. So when you go, I was at the supermarket today getting some rolls. You're going to see so many funny people because you go, God, you know, because I'm in my ego and because I do have a body and I do judge, I can't get away from that. To think I can get away from it, I can say, isn't God interesting? Look at how it created all these unique expressions of itself. Because that's what it is. They're all expressions of God. So you say, okay, fine. I love that. I think I want to take your community in a little bit different direction, Richard, and something I shared with you the other day. And that was that we need to have peace on earth, especially in light of what's going on with Russia and Ukraine right now. And the question I would ask is, to any person listening, are you ever at total peace with yourself? Or are you really going on a battle within yourself, questioning everything? And the answer is you've got both peace and war going on in you. Let's say you've got a partner, parents, child. Is it always peaceful? Or is there always contrast on both sides? In the city where you live, is it peaceful or is there contrast on both sides? In the job, in the company you work in, is it peaceful or is it both sides? In the country, is it peaceful or is there conflict on both sides? In the world, how can you expect the world to be at peace when the world is simply a reflection of the collective consciousness of humanity? And if we can't find total peace in the individual, how are we going to find it in the world? It's interesting.
Yeah, and it's right on. It's just so right on. We all know at this point, some of us that have been on this journey for a long time, turning things, basically reflecting everything back through the self and realizing that, there's like a difference in trying to change the world and changing ourselves, because by changing the world, you're still trying to almost, even if your intention is good, you're still kind of like trying to manipulate some things or pull people to your blue or red pendulum swing. And so
But
there's
Richard, pause for a second and think about what's the only truth? It's your awareness. So you don't have to change anyone's world. You change how you see the world. You'll find peace that way.
Right. Absolutely. I had a life coach that taught me a few years ago, how you see the world or how you show up for the world is how the world is going to show up for you. Like there is this reflective essence. And, obviously another big piece of this is moving out of the victim mentality and the blame game. What one of my friends would say, blame shifting, like being able to identify those moments in our lives where we're failing to take responsibility for our current circumstances. And that was a big thing for me. And even just a little kind of aha, like, okay, all right, I don't have to blame that person or that person or that person. I realized that because we are in this co-creative space that we're going to bump into people. So I kind of have a different, maybe philosophical view than you on some things, but really we are in vibrational alignment on 99.9% of things. And, as I kind of researched various Ernest Holmes teachings or centers, I did scour the internets looking for people, and you just rose to the surface as far as your ability to just capture my imagination and see your authenticity. And, you even talked about that this morning. I did watch that once. I was still in preparing. I've been binging on your content for the last week, just so that my mind is saturated with it. But I think I've watched every single YouTube video you've put out since November of 2020. I mean, every single video. And now I'm going backwards and watching things from 2013. And I actually heard you say the power in you in 2013.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
And I didn't write the book until last year.
It's fascinating how that happens.
And that's something that people, what I teach, it's practical. I'm not into the theory. I'm not into all of that. I want to teach people simple, practical tools that if they use them, they claim their power back. And for me, that's what people are looking for. They want to be empowered. If people come to me and say, Reverend Lee, you got to change my life. I said, I can't, but I can show you a path where you can do it. And the first chapter of the book is the most important one. No, the first chapter is the most important one. That is the power of knowing what love is. The second chapter is the power of knowing who you are. And this is where most people fall down. They don't really have a clue who they are. And first thing I would say to people is you've got to understand that you're not your body, you're not your mind. You have a body and you have a mind, but you're the soul, which means you're part of oneness. So when you can embrace that part, Now we go to the second part. So what makes you unique with a body and a mind? And the best thing that I've learned from that, and that's from Dr. John Demartini, is knowing your top 3 to 5 values. And a value is where you perceive you have the greatest void or you want more of it. And so my top 3 values are very simple: to become more aware, to teach, and also to have interpersonal relationships. I see those are the greatest voids in my life that juice me. I mean, they juice me. I've been talking all day today, and I never tire of talking about this stuff, ever. And then when you're talking about this stuff, you're building interpersonal relationships, and it's also helping you to become more aware. Now, going through the process with John, once I got and understood my top values, every decision I make, if it either supports my top values, I do it. If it doesn't support my top values, I delegate it or I don't do it.
And if something doesn't fall directly in line with your values, you try to link your values.
Yep, I try to link it to one of those top values. How would if I do this? Today I cut the yard, okay? For me, I was grounding with the planet. I was doing mantras as I pushed the lawnmower. It also was nurturing my body, wasn't it? Physically. And my 4th value is personal health and well-being. So you see, the lawn wasn't something that was against my values. It fit it. I like being able to be and doing nothing, still connecting to Mother Earth and nourishing my body for just an hour. It's not like it was a 5-hour job. It was an hour job. And it felt good. So you're absolutely right. Link whatever it is to one of those top values.
Yeah. And I actually took Lee's values course. How long ago was that now? Maybe 2 months, maybe?
Yeah.
Just kind of taking a guess, but I've been looking forward to that. You know, Lee actually advertises that that's probably one of the best things he does for people, that really, really gives them an opportunity to put their life on a different foundation. And I would totally agree with everything you said about, you know, my first top value is wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and just basically the seeking of information and trying to, you know, find your way around and study natural law and the law of the mind and spirit and body, all that good stuff. My second value is personal connection. And, you know, in that effort, I've actually been inviting individuals from your community to have one-on-one meetings with me so that we can get kind of out of the group dynamic and have a more one-on-one. So I hadn't really had a chance to really discuss those experiences with you, but every single discussion has been an hour or more. And I've had 6 or 7 different individual meetings. And I think next week, since I've been interviewing you, I'm going to ask your wife to join me for a one-on-one now that she might have some free time. Now, you can keep that a secret because I like to kind of surprise people with it. But if she watches the episode, you know, I don't know exactly when I'm going to upload it yet, but probably within the week. I do want to have a little bit of time to advertise to my minor social media and just kind of get the word out. I'll set it up as a premiere. But yeah, it's just been really interesting to really build that personal connection. I've been taking my own action in alignment with my new values. I mean, I took that course really seriously. I read them every single morning without fail. I wouldn't say that I've got everything memorized. As you know, I kind of wrote a couple of pages, but I know what my top values are off the top, and I am making decisions based on that. So my third value is obviously this financial piece. You know, I've had the corporate job. I just blew literally about $500,000 in like 12 or 15 years. And I was mismanaged my finances. I was codependent to an extreme. And I see every relationship that I'm in now, friends, family, or whatever, it's like there's like a spectrum of codependency. It's like a sliding rule. Like, it's really hard to just be like, I don't care what anybody thinks. But on the other side of it, I'm pretty good at just being like, wave my freak flag. You know, I do some really interesting things. You haven't seen this guy in a while. You know, I come on the meditations sometimes and Lee will have a 2-minute conversation. And this is one of my characters that I've developed. And I don't know, I think I call this Racket, but Racket sang happy birthday to Reverend Lee last year, if you remember that. So, we do some things around here where we really do express our creativity and, like I said, wave our freak flag a little bit. But that individual piece, it's like, if you're not being authentic, the world is missing you. And I heard somebody say that just about a month or two ago, and that just really stuck with me.
Well, think about it. If you're not being authentic, it means you don't love yourself, because you're not being authentic to be able to accept yourself. If you're not being authentic, you're not giving anyone else the opportunity to accept you as you truly are. You're trying to get them to accept something that's not you. Authenticity is your greatest gift. It's where your talents lie. It's what you bring to the universe. And when you're authentic, it just feels good to be you. Because when you're being authentic, you're not judging you. That's love. Anytime you take judgment out of the situation, that's love. And people don't get that. The second, well, if he did this or she did that, wait a second. If means judgment. Now, in the book, we go and we talk about love being acceptance. We talk about the second quality is you got to like someone. And that means, is your energy vibrating like them? And you'll know whether you like someone or not pretty quickly. And you can like someone for a while and not like someone later. Not good or bad, just as a vibration. Then you got the third aspect of it, you got lust. That comes in. People have confused, they've combined like and lust, and they've called that love. And that's not what love is. Love is pure, total acceptance. When they say the love of God, it means God accepts you as you are. Oh my God, what a great feeling to know that the infinite created you and accepts you as you are. And all you have to do to be loved is be you. Whoa, the pressure's off. Unless you don't know who the frig you are. Then you got to spend some time figuring that out.
Right. Yeah. And I love that thought. Just, we are thinking centers within the infinite mind, and then really just kind of the crux, that quote that is so often quoted is, there is a power for good in the universe, and that power is greater than we are. And we are always using it, whether we're aware of it or not.
Amen. Our beliefs are creating, whether we're aware that our beliefs create or not. Our beliefs create, the beliefs create for the atheist, for the Jew, for the Christian, for the Buddhist, for the Hindu, for the Jainist, creates for the black, the white, the red, the green, the blue, the yellow, the gay, the straight, creates for everyone. It's your belief. It doesn't get any simpler, does it? But yet creating a belief is work. And then we don't know all the beliefs that we've got because they're buried under layers and layers and layers and layers.
And everybody wants it instantaneously. I've had a long journey. It's like, it is painstakingly slow, but through the work, I'm finally seeing kind of a light. I feel like there's a threshold. We talked about the other night in one of your classes, the mental atmosphere that we really create, like the cumulative thoughts that we allow in or attach to. I've gotten really aware with this clarity piece on that kind of self-talk. I've had a lot of different kind of mentors really encourage me to use the power of my voice to alter my energy and to really, it is a self-love aspect, because you got to get over this weird feeling of what your voice sounds like when you hear a recording of it. And I even went to the extreme, like, in order for me to become more comfortable in my own skin and within my own voice, was to record myself reading inspiring works. And then I slowly shifted into just doing like a little monologue every morning. And like, I'd wake up from bed, have my morning coffee, and talk to myself for 10 or 15 minutes. And it is a little bit uncomfortable. It kind of feels silly at first, but within a week or so, you realize, wow, I'm really able to organize my thoughts and kind of do a brain dump early in the morning so that I can actually be more present what I would call relationally present with myself as the obstacles and frustrations or just kind of random chaos of my day ensues. And it's just been that self-talk piece, really using the voice, getting into your chest and really like doing the mantras, all that amazing stuff that you teach us in our 7 a.m. breathing class. And now I guess just a kind of a really interesting piece. I guess we've kind of, I'm going to now be joining you energetically at your 5 o'clock or 5:15 meditations. Now that I have my job and my work and everything's changing. So I hope, I mean, I was there this morning. I promise.
I know it. I thought of you. You know, what's interesting is, here's a little piece of advice for everyone listening. When you meet someone new, whether it's a date, a friend, a business, just sit and ask open-ended questions. And when you do that, listen, you'll understand where their mental atmosphere is. But if you're too busy talking, interjecting, you won't learn anything about them. You were given 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should be listening twice as much as you're speaking. And that's difficult for most of us.
Yeah, it really is. I love that 2 ears and 1 mouth thing. And also 2 eyes. We need to be really open with our eyes, the gateway to the soul, those experiences that you talk about when you're doing your spiritual mind treatments and really connecting visual eye to eye. And I don't know, even that other experience you mentioned just the other night where they're doing like a little bit of a role playing and reframing past experiences and really trying to find the good, even though there is bad mixed in with some of those traumatic things. So yeah, it's fascinating. Also, I like to play with words. And so the word silent and the word listen are the same letters. And in order for us to listen, we have to be silent. And there's also heart, HEAR, ear, is right in the middle of our heart. Just I like to see these patterns and really like, there's just a layer of divine, just what I call awe awareness. So like there's hardware and software. I'm in awe of reality, of nature, of this divine connect, this feeling that I've had since I was basically 3 or 4. I had my first kind of like, whoa moment where I got embodied for the first time. I guess, I was adopted. I know you've adopted, but I was adopted when I was 4. But when I was 3, I was in a foster home. And I actually, within that environment, there were other children there. It was a loving environment. It was a great foster home temporarily for me. But I think the way I've kind of framed my experience with that is that once my being was safe and in a loving environment where I was allowed to be me for the first time, I literally had an awakening. I woke up when I was 3 years old. It's one of my first memories. And I still remember that today. And that's kind of what I call my first mini awakening, where I literally at 3 years old, I was like, what is going on? And I was looking at the stars. Like I've had a love affair with the universe. And I know this quote, I just know that there's a power in the universe that I have nothing to do with, that actually put this whole thing into motion, this cause and effect. And it is such a blessing and such a gift. And it's so easy to lose sight of that when we're surrounding ourselves with people who just are in a different mental atmosphere. And that's why, we always say that you're basically an average of the 5 people you hang out with most, so all those things and more. But I think we're probably kind of wrapping up the interview here. I really want to keep it to as close to an hour, maybe a little less, but what an amazing discussion. Just another launching point. I mean, this kind of stuff goes on and on and on. Reverend Lee knows all too well how all these concepts really do integrate really well with each other. And when you have a foundation like the Ernest Holmes materials, and you have that persistent and dedicated effort, you really have to take your thoughts captive. You really have to create a vision and find clarity and really do the work. It's not wish fulfilling science, even though I've used that term in the past. there's another term that's percolating in my perspective, and that's visioneering. It's like using your imagination, and like you even said, you got to be a painter. Can you paint a picture of your life and then move your decisions and make sure all of your decisions are in alignment with your highest values. And me personally, I like to delegate the yard work, and I like to help out people who are really trying to help themselves. I like to hire people. So I'm delegating the yard work. I'm working on hiring a maid. As you know, I'm always trying to declutter my environment, and I have been making progress. And so that's what I realized. This idea of daily progress. We're not in competition with anybody. We're not in competition with ourselves. We're just trying to be more aware. And the word I use for that is lucid. And I have another word that's not mysticism, but it's lucidicism, the actual act of daydreaming. We need to bring this dream forth, not in a lucid dream at night where you're aware that you're dreaming, that whole really amazing concept, but really just moving this increased awareness of who we are, our wholeness, our infinite nature, and moving that into the world, and being an example, a role model. That's the only way we affect change. It's from one person to another. And you've demonstrated that. And I'm just so pleased to be a part of your community. I look forward to many, 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 many more conversations. And with that, I'll just give you the closing word. And thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank you because I always love to end in gratitude. It's the way I end every day, because gratitude is the greatest prayer one can speak. And I just want to say to the community out there, remember, all you got to do is take one step every day. It doesn't have to be a big step, but take one step in the direction of you becoming you becoming more aware every day. And you will be amazed at the life that you create. I know you can do it because I've seen others. So thank you, Richard. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much. And so it is.
So it is.